Hi, welcome. It's Brooke. Oh my gosh, I haven't been on here in a minute. I have internet in my house. Hooray, it's not finished. For those that don't know, we spent the last year working on this shed to extra large tiny house conversion, and we're here. We have arrived. It is not finished, but neither are we, are we? Aren't we always kind of a work in progress and a masterpiece simultaneously? Okay. Well, I'm here today because I got a message and I'm very excited about what wants to come through, what God's wanting to say. It's a big message, and this is the beginning of a new work that God is doing in my life. It's something that's been brewing for a really long time. It's been slowly percolating and evolving, and now it's blooming. What is my dog doing? Dog, what are you doing? Nobody knows. Kansas, come here. What are you getting into? Okay, pardon. I'm back. All right, so I guess without further ado, we will begin. This video is called Out of Oz and Into the Garden. I think we can all agree that right now it's kind of crazy in the world, y'all. It's a wild place. There's a lot going on, and if you are living in the world and you're dependent on the things of the world, it looks like a very dark and bleak and depressing time indeed, does it not? Now, if you don't know what's going on, go do some searching. I'm not going to talk in specifics about world events simply because I want this message to be able to get out to as many people as possible. And we live in a time where 1984, the book, has actually become true and real. So I have to be careful what I say. Okay, before I dive in, let's just pray. Father, Holy Spirit, I pray that you are here today, that you are opening up hearts, you are opening up ears and eyes, that you are bringing the right people that need to hear this message, that you are bringing the people that are hungry, that are seeking something different, the people that know that revival is upon us, that are ready for something else. You are doing a new thing. And I pray that you will do a new thing in the hearts and minds and the lives of every person that comes and finds this, whether it is now or whether they come and join on a replay at some point. I pray that you provide them the peace that surpasses all understanding. I pray that you lift them up and you hold them wherever they are, and that they feel your ever-loving presence, because you are the presence that has brought me back from the brink more times than I can count. You have walked with me through the darkest of nights and the deepest of valleys, through the shadows, and you're the reason why I'm here today. Oh, all right. Thank you. Amen. This is an interesting talk. Out of Oz and into the garden. So I've talked about this land called Oz before, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it today. But the premise is all of the world is a stage, and we are just actors upon it. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Truman Show, but in the movie The Truman Show, Jim Carrey is caught up in a production studio. He's living out his life and he's interacting with these characters and he's acting out different scripts and playing this personality, and he's in a role, but he does not know that he is in a role. He doesn't know that he is playing a part. And that is exactly what the Land of Oz is. It is a production studio. It is a trauma loop matrix that is held together through lies and deception. It is an inversion of the truth. It is a slave system that is actually meant to harvest your energy and steal, kill, and destroy. It is a distraction. Distraction, as in losing traction. It is something that is intended to pull you off your path. It is something that is intended to pull you away from God, away from the truth. And it is the land of error. It's the land of deficiency. And so if you find yourself living in Oz, you'll find that you feel like you have a hole in the soul. It's this empty, hollow, cavernous space within you that you cannot seem to fill no matter how hard you might try. And I was there. I was so deeply entrenched in Oz that I would rather die than continue the path that I was on. And that was a big wake-up call for me because I had many things in my life that were worth living for, but the depression and the darkness of the abyss was eating me alive from the inside out, and I needed something different. And so maybe you've been there, maybe you're somewhere else on the path. Wherever you are on the journey, you're right where you need to be. Okay? Your past does not dictate your future. Your present moment right now, the choice that you are making right here and right now is the choice that will now begin to create your future, and you can choose something different than what you've had this moment, right now. All right. So the reason why you feel like crap in the land of Oz, the reason why you feel empty is because the entire system is set up for deception and enslavement. It is a space that steals your soul. It steals your essence. It steals your life power. It steals your connection with Source. And it does so by distracting you, hijacking you, and derailing you. So what Oz does is Oz wants to feed off of you like a leech. And so Oz actually plugs into you and hooks onto you and latches itself. And then it siphons your life force energy. So you're wondering, well, Brooke, how do they do that? What do you mean they're feeding off of me? Well, every single time that you're on your phone and you're sitting there and you're doom scrolling, you're literally looking for the next worst thing that's happening, and you're feeding that fuel of that fear. That energy is going off into the quantum field. It is an energetic universe. This is created. If you understand vibration and energy, you will understand the laws of God, and you will understand the laws of the universe and how Source set it up. So your emotions are actually energy in motion. They're meant to be flowing through you, but we're not meant to constantly live in a space of stress and in a space of fear. That's a base level emotion. That's a base level energy. And these base entities, evil entities that actually do exist, feed off of that. It is their fodder. It is their fuel. So when we sit there and we're doom scrolling, or we're tuning into the mainstream media every time that it's on, and we're buying the narrative, every time that we're buying into fear, that we're buying into scarcity, that we're buying into lack or doubt, is a moment that we're choosing to operate in Oz as a state of being. All right? Oz is the land of lies. It is the land of fear. If you are perpetually anxious or afraid, you are living in the land of Oz. If you feel like you are not enough, if you feel like you have no value, if you feel like gum on the bottom of a shoe, these are signs that you've been living in the land of Oz. If you look around your life and you don't know how you got here because you've sure been working pretty hard, but it feels like you're spinning your wheels, you, my friend, are in the land of Oz. None of these things, not the illness, not the disease, not the deception, not the betrayal, not the death, not the struggle, none of that was what God intended for us. None of that is God's will. Jesus said that if you have seen me, then you have seen the Father, and Jesus healed the sick. He set the captives free. He provided in plenty. That is the example of the Father. That is the example of what's actually available to us should we finally decide to get our butts up and out of Oz. Now, here's the difficult part. Oz is, yeah, sure, found in a physical place. Oz is every single one of these concrete jungles that like to drive out nature. Oz is every place where people are choosing a virtual reality versus a human experience. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate technology because I've been working online and I've been working with people all over the world for years now, and it's really cool, but it is a tool. It is a tool. It is not the thing. It is not the be all end all. It is not the solution. The solution is actually found within yourself. All right. Oh, there's so much. I can talk literally for years and hours, and I'm super excited that God's opening up this space and this platform because we've got a lot to talk about. Now, I know I mentioned that Jesus word and I've already prayed, and I've got to tell you, I am gratefully, blissfully on a path, walking in the garden with God. I am a daughter of the Almighty King. I am a child of God. I am a chosen one. I am here to spread the good news. I am here to set the captives free. Okay. Now, before we go any further, I've got to tell you it's not religion. It's not religion. I did not find what I was looking for there. I've looked a lot of places for a lot of solutions, and the solution actually came not in religion, but in relationship. In relationship. Now, here's the beautiful thing about relationship. Relationship is unique. Relationship is connection, it's closeness, it's intimacy. And to me, I see. It is different. If y'all have kids out there and you're watching this, if you have siblings, like we could apply this a lot of ways. If you have a relationship with two different friends in your life, you can see this. If you have a relationship with someone, your relationship with them is going to be different than anybody else's relationship with them. So it would make sense, right, that each of us is actually intended to have a unique relationship with God, with the source of it all. Now, I've got to tell you, I went from total skeptic, suicidal skeptic, to being on a spiritual and a self-development path to being saved. And it was something that I avoided for so long, despite the fact that this Christ energy, this energy from the source, from the Father, kept coming through to save me. And it would swoop in and it would save me and it would work this miracle working power through me. And I loved it, but I also denied it. I was like tiptoeing. I was taking one step into it, but I wasn't allowing it to actually just completely engulf me and wash away the old me. And I found that when I am in any area of my life that I am willing to be totally open-handed with God, that I'm totally willing to let go of attachment, to just let it be what it's going to be, to let it move, that is when I find that the miracle happens, the breakthrough happens. When I take my hands off the wheel, God can take over his good, orderly direction and put me on the path to having the issue be resolved. But there are many, many things. Like I'm not bashing any part of my path. In fact, as I was talking to God about like, God, I've discovered so much, but so many things that I've discovered were not the full truth. What do you want me to talk about? Well, and God told me time and time again, Brooke, just talk about your experience. See, because I was on this path and I was winding into these parts of myself and into different spaces, different places. And the entire time, God was unraveling things within my being, within my soul, that were keeping me separate, that were keeping me out of who I really am, that were keeping me far from my true identity as a daughter of the Most High. And I'm grateful for that path because, quite frankly, it was beyond my comprehension. When you are so far down in the dark, when you are so far down in the abyss, when you have so little self-esteem and so little self-worth, and you are in the pit of despair. And I pray that if you are there, that you will pop out of it, because it's a place to be. But when you're there and you have all of this belief and all of this identity and all of this attachment to what and who you think that you have been, it's pretty hard to about face and suddenly overhaul everything. Now, had I been willing, God would have done it for me right from the start. Okay? God does impossible things. And I've got to be clear, who's this God that I'm talking about? I'm talking about the source of all. I'm not talking about people make a lot of things their God. And like, I guess fine, you can do that if that's where you want to go play in this playground. But a lot of people make money their God. A lot of people go look to seek that thing as if that thing is going to fill them up. For me, for a chunk of my life, I made substances and seeking that kind of solution the God of my life. For a lot of my life, I made my worries and my fears the God of my life. They were the thing that I was focused on all the time. They were getting all of my attention. So I invite you to look at that. What are you making a God? What are you putting on a pedestal in your life? What is the dominating force and the focus within your thoughts? Because again, if it's on those things that we were just talking about, if it's on death or fear or worry or lack or scarcity or feeling insecure or like you're not good enough, you're living in the land of Oz. You are opting to be in a state of being that is stealing from you, killing you, and destroying you. All right, and you have a choice. We're not designed to live there. The reason why it feels so bad to your being is because you're not meant to exist in that space. You're not hardwired like that. You are hardwired to have a connection with the source. All right. So like I said, I was a super skeptic. I didn't believe all this stuff. There was way too much stuff that happened to me early in my life. And I felt like when I had prayed to God, God didn't answer me. And I expected a Santa Claus God. Like, if God doesn't give this to me, then God isn't real. And I went through a whole period where I think you kind of inevitably do this. And I think it's why biblically there's such a responsibility placed on relationship, on marriage in particular, because it is a model. It is a model. It's supposed to be a model of the relationship of God with you, of the Christ with you. And isn't it interesting how much the land of Oz has attacked the family unit and has pulled people out of their power there? If Oz can end the happy family, they can totally derail people's foundations that they have with the Father God. And you do it automatically. You don't even realize that you're doing it. It's just something that happens as a byproduct of your upbringing. All right? Like, your parents are the ones that raise you. And so inevitably, you apply however those providers, however those protectors were, to your image of God. And you know what I found? No way, man. That's totally not the truth. See, I thought that God must have hated me because I had to go through all these things and I applied my parents' characteristics to them. So, like, man, I don't know if I want to have a relationship with that. I don't know if that's going to show up for me. I don't know if that's going to be there for me. I don't know if that really loves me. If I'm myself around it, will it tell me to be quiet? Will it tell me I'm too much, that I'm not someone that can be loved? And so I was real afraid. I was real afraid of having any kind of connection and really insecure. See, if you don't have a secure attachment, a secure connection through childhood, you're less likely to develop a secure attachment with God. And if you don't have a secure attachment, you are insecure. And if you are insecure, now you're suddenly trying to plug yourself into all the people and all the situations in the world. And now you're the one trying to siphon your power from that. But we're not meant to like siphon energy off of each other. We're not meant to feed off of each other like a bunch of parasites. That's not what we're intended to do. If anything, we're meant to multiply. We're meant to expand one another. We're meant to feed each other, nourish one another. We're hardwired for connection. But the only way that that happens is if we first get the connection right within ourselves. See, if you're securely connected to yourself, and call me blasphemous and heretical or whatever, but this is where the church gets it wrong. I shouldn't want to totally destroy myself. The problem is that the whole world, the slave system, the trauma loop has caused you to become something that's not yourself. God didn't mess up when he made you. God's design is perfect. You are whole, perfect, and complete, but you might have forgotten it. And that's the issue. You are uniquely designed. You are a puzzle piece in the grand tapestry and in the work of art that the source of all had in mind, and you have been called out and chosen from the beginning of time. You can tell if I'm speaking the truth on these things. The things that are lies, they'll feel really heavy and gross. You might feel like, pulled, If something's not for you, it'll feel like someone's trying to kick you or push you into something. You'll feel like, I don't want to go. If it's the truth, it'll feel expansive. If it's the path for you, you'll feel pulled forward. For me, when I hit the truth, it starts at the top of my head, it goes down to my toes like a tingle, and then it comes right back up again. So just notice how you feel. Like, don't take my word for it, but go dive in and explore this. If you have a secure connection with yourself, with the truth of who you really are, and who I really am is someone here with a purpose. I am someone with the power of the Holy Spirit within me. I am here for a reason. If you can find that person, and you are uniquely made. You're not meant to become standard or standardized. You're not meant to fit inside a box. Your life isn't meant to look like everybody else's. Neither is your relationship. Neither are you. We are all meant to actually be who we really are. And if we are who we really are, and you step into being that unique puzzle piece that you are, and everybody comes back to life in that, can you imagine? Can you imagine? See, God doesn't make mistakes, so we already have all the pieces. We already have all the people that we need to create all of the innovation and all of the change and all of the well-being. We already have everything we need to nourish everyone. It's all here within us. The question is, are we willing to take the journey to tap back into it? Are we willing to shut off our addiction to the land of Oz, to that perpetual seeking, to that immediate gratification, and I got to have my way or the highway? Are we willing to walk away from that and trust that if I lean in, I'm going to find something so much greater? All right, so my skepticism, which said, oh gosh, no, there couldn't be a God. He didn't deliver me boobs in the 8th grade. How could he be real? Y'all, it's so funny. I prayed for curly hair my whole life. And then I pulled into Arkansas a couple years ago and my hair went curly. Now I don't know what to do with it. It's funny. Sometimes I wonder if maybe we're not getting what we've asked for because we're not prepared for it. We wouldn't know what to do with it. So I was super skeptical and I was super starving for something. And Gosh, I searched for solutions everywhere. My teenage years were a wreck. I was a train wreck. It was bad enough actually when I was 19, I went to go get a giant tattoo tattooed on my side, and I told the guy, I was like, we should just put a warning label. We kind of did. It says beautiful if you look at it one way, but it says disaster if you look at it another way. And at the time it felt like I knew I was a disaster. I knew I was in not an okay place. I was the go big or go home party girl that, quite frankly, I don't know, whatever your image is in your head of wild party girl, probably multiply it by 10 and you might have something close to what I was. It was nuts. It was really crazy. I really shouldn't be alive. I'm really grateful that God pulled me out of that. I'm really grateful that I don't think that that's fun anymore, because the life that God has given me is exponentially and infinitely more beautiful and more fulfilling and more joyful. And I don't spend days recovering from it anymore. See, but there was a period in my life where that did seem like fun. And it did seem like the solution. And it was, until it wasn't. And then the thing that I thought was saving me from having to feel all the stuff I was avoiding was suddenly the thing that was killing me. Maybe you can relate with that. Maybe there's been something in your life that's been like that. So I had to become willing, and honestly, it took the deepest of rock bottoms. And I wish I could say that I've had one rock bottom in my life and everything has been up from there. No, no. I was a wreck, y'all. I was a disaster. There were a lot of places in my life that God needed to come through and needed to overhaul me so that I could actually be who He was calling me to be. Because these other versions of myself that I was being were not that. I was playing a part. I was acting out a role. I was caught up in the traumas and dramas, and I was following a script that somebody else had written for my life. Somebody else that, I don't know, this stuff runs deep. I was sitting here thinking the other day, and it's like, generationally, we have so much war. We have so much death. We have so much sadness. We have so much manipulation and propaganda and nonsense that goes generations back. We are generationally traumatized, and that stuff is passed down through your family lineage, and it's passed down through your neurology and your genetics. It's passed down. You're raised in it. You're steeped in it. It's in our culture. It's everywhere you look. It's in our music. It's in our schools. And so it's no wonder that we are so hooked into it. I like to make an analogy about a goldfish in a bowl. A goldfish doesn't know the quality of the water that it's swimming in. I don't know if the goldfish even knows that it's swimming in water, because it's all it's ever known. But it certainly doesn't know about lakes and rivers or streams. It has no idea. Brooks. So I got started on this path out of necessity. I had a crazy car accident on December 21st, 2012, the day that they said that the world was going to end. Mine did. Mine did. It's weird because I was so miserable. I was actually praying for it to end that morning. I was praying to someone that I didn't even know existed. But that morning, December 21st, 2012, I was miserable and I was hungover as usual. And I was driving to school to go teach these kids, and I felt like a raging hypocrite because here I am. You can be what you want to be. But I was miserable and I was unhappy and I was stuck in a rut and I was living out all these old patterns. And thankfully, I got into a really big accident. And I've seen a lot of people that are ending up in accidents lately. And I got to tell you, there's a message there for you. Accidents don't happen on accident. It's a wake-up call. It's a sign to slow down. It's a sign to be appreciative. It's to check in. What track are you on? What timeline are you choosing? What path are you going to walk down? Are you going to be in Oz forevermore? Or are you going to walk up out of there? Are you actually going to choose? Because if you're willing to choose to exit Oz, there's something so extraordinary on the other side. There's something so extraordinary outside of Oz, outside of the lie, outside of the error. So I've said this word error a couple of times. Y'all, I've had probably too much time on my hands for way too long now. After I got in that car accident, during the car accident, I had a near-death experience, and thankfully I ended up walking away miraculously. Shouldn't have happened. But during the car accident, I flew up out of my body. And this peace, this light, this warmth, it's enormous. There's just not even English words to describe it, overcame me and pulled me out of my body and showed me so clearly two timelines, two paths that I could choose. And there was this one, and that first timeline was really morbid. It was really terrifying. It was really small. It was really controlled. I saw many things that didn't make sense at the time, that seemed baffling to me, that I'm now watching play out in the world. And it seemed like it took a lifetime to watch this timeline of events. And it was small. It felt cramped, and it was grayscale, and I could smell like it was a full experiential experience. All my senses were involved. It was supernatural. It was beyond human, beyond physical, I should say. And it smelled like death. I don't know if y'all have ever driven past a rotting cow or something on the side. They stink. It smelled like death. And it felt like death. And people had their faces covered, and you couldn't tell who anybody was. And people were dropping like flies, and everybody was confined. Does this sound familiar? And I saw so clearly this repetitive pattern that had been in my life, this repetitive relational pattern playing out over and over and over again, and me just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and just shrinking away to nothing. And that was one timeline. And it was very clear, yo, Brooke, this is the timeline you've been living on. You have been blotting it out to the bitter end, and the bitter end is about to be right now. What do you choose? And then I got to see the other timeline, the other track, the other possibility. And it was the opposite. It was light, and it was free, and it was vibrantly colored, and it smelled, I didn't know what it was. At first, I didn't know the smell. It smelled familiar. I smelled Japanese honeysuckle blowing through the air, and lilac. And it was divine. And the colors came to life, and I watched a whole adventure play out, a whole lifetime of adventure, and it was travel, and it was exploration, and it was great connection, and it was wonderful food, and I could taste it, and I could feel the love, and I felt nourished, and I felt expanded, and I felt purposeful, and I felt fulfilled, and I saw these visions of things that I've had an idea of my whole life coming to life. And then I came back down into my body, and the rest of the car accident happened, and I didn't want to listen. I didn't want to listen at first. Oh my gosh, it was so scary. It was so petrifying. This is so interesting. This is playing music now. It was so scary. See, like, at least I knew. At least I knew what was going to happen on the first timeline. I'd already been living there for a while, like my whole life. Okay, I know it sucks here, but at least I'm used to it. And the other was so foreign and it was so different. And I really questioned, am I worth that? Am I actually capable of stepping into that? And then I spent 10 days trying to avoid this pull. And on New Year's Eve, I walked into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. My eyes were sunken and dark. My face had lost its light. There was no soul. There was nothing in me. I looked like a zombie. I looked dead. And that was a wake-up call to me. And so I told my now ex-husband that night on New Year's Eve, like I knew I couldn't face the next year like that. I told him, I'm done. I got to make a change. And that was the beginning of a path and the beginning of a walk that I began to walk with God. And there's a saying that if you seek, if you knock, if you seek, you will find. If you knock, the door will be opened unto you. If you are eagerly looking for something different, if you're willing, if you're honest, if you're open-minded, if you're open-hearted, if you're open to a new experience, God will 100% of the time meet you where you're at and run at you with open arms to set you on that path. And you know what? He is a good, good father. He is not like the worldly fathers we may have experienced. He is not here to pull one over you. He is not here to lie or betray you. No, no. He is a good, good father. He is the divine father, the provider, the protector, the source of it all. And he knows the innermost workings of your heart, and he knows exactly what you need. So it didn't happen all at once for me. I found myself, I was teaching. They wanted to help teachers combat stress. And so I signed up for a meditation mindfulness course through my school. Look at this. I got a cool bee mug. So I signed up for this course through my school. And it was exactly what I didn't know I needed. So I had spent so much time in trauma and drama that I was never in my body. I was always disassociating. I was always flying up out of it. And it was almost like watching somebody else go through the motions of my life. It was like watching somebody else act out a play. And I'd go through entire days where it was like, I felt like a robot. So I took this mindfulness course and it brought me back to my body and it brought me back to being present with the moment. It taught me how to taste food again. It taught me how to breathe again. It taught me how to notice when I'm washing my hair, what that feels like. It taught me how to be in my body with my feet planted on the ground in this now moment. And that is such a powerful gift because in this now moment, right now, nothing is wrong. Nothing is broken. You are whole. You are perfect. You are complete. It was the beginning of my experience of actually knowing the great I am. In the burning bush moment with Moses, God said, I am. Moses said, who are you? I am. Not I was, not I will be, I am. See, our power exists in the present moment when we're conscious of who we are saying we are. We're there, we're in that moment. We're powerful, we're connected with God. But the trauma loop matrix of Oz wants to get you always focused on the past, the things that have already happened, your past hurts, your past upsets, your wouldas, your couldas, your shouldas. And it wants to get you focused on the future. Oh my gosh, what will happen? I have to figure it out. I gotta get it all done. Oh, the sky is falling. What's your 5-year plan? I don't know. Ask God, he knows. See, Oz wants to get you all these places because when you're in the past or you're in the future, you're not in the present moment. So you're not in the now where God exists. You're not present in the state of being where you can actually tap into that world creating power, the source of all. But if you are in the present moment, if you are here right now, if you are practicing perfect patience, you'll find that you're actually in the garden with God and all that you require is provided unto you. Come here, dog. There you go. She's very cute and very whiny. Yes. Okay. So a lot of what's keeping you from having the happiness that you're seeking is the fact that you've been focused on Oz things rather than being focused on being in the garden. This is something that I really couldn't wrap my head around for a really long time. Like I said, I had applied who my parents were to who I thought God was, and I personified God inappropriately. I'd put the wrong label and the wrong mask and the wrong costume on God, and I'd really limited what was possible for me. But God is patient and God is loving, and God led me to a place where I could finally begin to clear away the wreckage of my past, and I could begin to clear out and get honest about what I had created, what I had participated in, who I had become. And I found that as I began to just share these things, like as I began to speak my secret and my shame out loud, that it disappeared. God washed it away. I'd been holding on to all of these things, this bitterness, this resentment, this guilt, this fear, this hurt. And I'd been carrying it around for so long. But that was never mine to carry, and that was never God's intention for me, and it's not God's intention for you to carry that. We have tear ducts in our eyes because we're actually meant to look somebody else in the eye, and we're meant to share our joy, and we're meant to share our pain, and we're meant to connect over these things. We're hardwired for connection. See, but Oz tells you that, oh my gosh, if you don't feel okay being traumatized and gaslit and manipulated and triangulated and propaganded to and censored and you name it, if you're not okay with all of that and how they run their world, well, then you have a problem with you. And Oz will tell you, you're diagnosed with this and we got to put you on that and you're broken. You're just crazy, Brooke. No, you know what's crazy is that way of living. What's crazy is expecting that you could put that amount of pressure on a person and that they would be happy through it. But that's not how we are designed to live. It is literally contrary to our nature. It's contrary to how we were designed to be. We were intended to be human beings, a being first. That means I'm securely connected to myself, and I'm also securely connected to Source. I am an open conduit for what the divine wants to do through me. Not I'm connected to somebody else and they're siphoning off of me and I'm people pleasing them because we're codependent. Not I'm seeking a solution in a bottle, pill bottle, alcohol bottle, I don't care. I'm seeking a solution from some external source for something that I should be going direct to Source. And that's the difference. That's the missing piece. So I set out on this whole route to recovery, and God just kept knocking on my door and just kept pulling me closer. And also let me have the freedom, though, the freedom to go explore. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that because if I hadn't gone down all of the different winding paths that I did end up walking, I wouldn't have discovered the depth of the deception of Oz, and I would not have discovered the truth, and I would not have discovered me. So I don't think that there are really any wrong turns. I don't believe that a loving God would say that people are forever doomed. I would say that a loving God would say, hey, yo, get up and walk your own path and trust that I've got other people on their path. I do know that we're told not to judge, but to love because God is love. And I think that's where a lot of people, if I start talking about this God thing, they want to hang up or they want to exit or they want to run away from the conversation because they've had experiences that left a really bad taste in their mouth. Look, I got to tell you, that was by design. That was not God sent. That was Oz created. That was another layer in the production studio that is meant to deceive you, that is meant to actually edge God out, get you focused on the ego. There's a revival that's happening. There is a truth that is going to come to the church. And if it needs to come through me, and if I need to be the one to say it and to call it out, I certainly will. Because there are many religious faculties, most of them, that have been lying to people and have been deceiving people deliberately to keep them out of the garden. And what makes it worse is that they've added bits of truth. So much of the deception in the land of Oz is caused by lies of omission. Meaning they'll give you a little bit of truth, and that little bit of truth will ping something inside of you because you're hardwired for truth. But they'll put a little bit of truth frosting, but the bulk of the cake is BS. So they'll do that. They'll put a little bit of truth with a lot of BS, or they'll take the truth and they will slice it and they'll dice it and they'll chop it up and mutilate it to the point that it doesn't even resemble the original thing. Now, I've reached a point of so much appreciation and so much gratitude for my past path and for everything that's happened. And while I wouldn't wish it on anybody, part of me kind of would. As messed up as it is, because the path actually set me free. See, if I hadn't gone through so much, if I hadn't been hurting so badly, if I hadn't been at rock bottom so many times and so desperately seeking for truth, I would have been deceived through this greatest deception yet that has been currently happening. But because I was so deceived before, and because I fell for the nonsense of my life, and I fell for crappy characters and poor treatment, and I got duped and I ignored the red flags and all of that, because I got so hurt before, I now have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, and quite frankly, a whole body that's an energetic antenna. I'm so psychic, I can freaking feel you. But thank you, God, that I was equipped like this, because if I hadn't been through that battleground, if I hadn't been battle tested like that, I never would have refined the skills and the gifts that, quite frankly, have saved me from so much, especially the last several years. While the world is going crazy, I have I have laid in green pastures. I have sat beside still waters. I have been comforted. I've been provided for. Everything that I have needed has shown up in perfect timing and in perfect amounts and quantities, the perfect provision for the vision. God has had my back. He has set up the right people. He has put me in the right place at the right time because I've been obedient and I have been willing to listen. Oh, I've got so much. I could talk for so many hours, but we're not going to talk that long today. I'll just do another video really soon. Look, I picked up a lot of tools on the path, and maybe you have too. Maybe you've been really hungry, so you've gone the personal or professional development route. Maybe you've been walking a spiritual path. Maybe you've been in therapy. Maybe, I don't know what you've done. I got to tell you, the thing that really made the big difference for me, all of those other things, they'd help a little bit or they'd help for a little while. But the missing piece was actually allowing this Christ energy. And when we get into it, I call it the Christ energy because the letter J did not exist in the Hebrew language, and his name was not Jesus. The name Jesus was applied to him in the 1600s, so 440, 50 years ago. Which made me think, like, who's this Jesus character you guys have us talking about? Like, whose name did you apply? Because the name in Hebrew is Yeshua. And I know Jesus, I just got a big tingle, hi. The name Jesus, like, it flows off the tongue more, and maybe that was it. They say it's a transliteration from a translation from a translation. So it's like game of telephone a few times. I know that we've been so deceived and so misled in so many areas, it really makes me wonder why the name flop? And who have we really been giving our power and our like allegiance? Who have we been trying to follow? So I've asked that question. But the Christ energy that lives and dwells with me and within me is a very real thing. A very real thing. And it has led me on this path of finding out some really cool things. Like, did you know that the Bible, as it is laid out, the reason why it is the way that it is, well, there were a couple of people. Let me find my notes. Irenaeus, I don't know if that's how I say his name. Anyway, he was Greek. He was born in sometime between 120 and 140. And so he didn't like live in the time that Yeshua the Christ was alive, but he was born 120 to 140 years later. Well, he called the Gnostic Gospels. There's a whole bunch of other gospels. Gospel means good news. There's a whole bunch of other records, a whole bunch of other accounts of the life of the Christ and of the miracles that were done and of the lessons that were taught and the parables that were spread. There's a lot more than what's included in what's considered the Bible. And this guy, he comes along and he says, no. That's heretical. You cannot talk about that. He said, the surest source of Christian guidance is the Church of Rome. Rome? The Romans were the ones that crucified Yeshua. So you're saying that we should listen to the people that killed him. Okay, weird. Okay. So it was strange to me. And then I was digging and I found out that in 325, the First Council of Nicaea was formed, and the Emperor Constantine, in order to ensure church unity, he said that if you follow these other teachings, you are a heretic. So he called this whole council. He brought 302 bishops together. He basically said, look, there's too much division in the church. He wasn't Christian, by the way, but there's too much division in the Christian church. We all need to be on the same page. So we're going to host this council. Hey, this is what the council has decided. If you don't believe it, my way or the highway, off with your head. So he forced people to comply, and 300 of the 302 bishops went along with it. 2 of them did not. They were beheaded. It was compliance by force. That sounds pretty freaking familiar recently. Constantine the Great also said, in addition, if any writing composed by Arius, we'll get into what Arius taught here in a moment, should be found, It should be handed over to the flames, so that not only will the wickedness of his teaching be obliterated, but nothing will be left even to remind anyone of him. And I hereby make by public order that if someone should be discovered to have hidden writing composed by Arius, and not to have immediately brought it forward and destroyed it by fire, his penalty shall be death. As soon as he is discovered in this offense, he shall be submitted for capital punishment. Now, this just sounds like eerily familiar. This sounds like, gosh, what you said violated community standards. You're not allowed on this platform anymore. And I don't know about you, but I'm skeptical enough that when people are like, Brooke, don't read that, or Brooke, don't think that, or Brooke, don't go there, it's the only place I want to go. It's the only place I want to go. I want to like go dive into the deep. Like, why don't you want me to know about it? And I've probably had way too much time on my hands. I've had a job with the boss for like 9 whole months total in the last 9 years. And so I've had all this time on my hands to explore and to learn and to dive deep and to listen to God and to adventure and to discover all these things. And you know what I discovered? We'll get into it. We'll get into it. This is the first of many, at least weekly teachings that God wants to come through, because we need to set the record straight. We need to remember who we are, and we need to remember whose we are, and we need to recall the power that we actually possess. You have the power within you to actually possess the land, to claim the land, to take it back. You have power within your voice to create worlds. If you're here and you're watching this, it's because you're a chosen one. You're actually being called forth to remember who you are, to remember your power, to begin to weave different worlds with your words, to stand up for something that matters, to be the hands and feet of God, to be the Christ with skin on. That's what we're here to be. And there's no greater privilege, by the way, than to be able to get to do that. Because salvation isn't something, if you dive in and you begin to read through the copious amounts of gospel and scripture that they hid, that they tried to destroy, that they locked away, that they banned, if you begin to read through this, you will discover that the Holy Spirit wants to come and live and dwell within you, and that salvation happens here in this lifetime. That yes, sure, when this body expires, you go to heaven and that's all great. But look, it's beyond that. God doesn't want you to have to wait until you leave this body to begin to receive your inheritance. He doesn't want you to wait to be saved. The whole point of being born again, a new creation, is to decide, I'm leaving Oz. I'm stepping out of Oz and I'm coming back to the garden of God. I'm willing to give it all up in order to be reborn, to have a new identity, to know myself in a new way, to be able to operate differently. And that is how we become of the world, but not, or in the world, but not of it. Meaning, like, I can go and I can operate in this place, but I'm not from here. My power does not exist here. And the moment that you remember that and you come back to being in the kingdom which, by the way, you find within, then suddenly none of the world around you has any real effect on you. You're provided, you're protected. You have a hedge of protection around you. So that's why we're going to be diving into this, because this is what matters. This is what actually changes things. This is what gives people the fullness of God and the fullness of themselves, to actually know that they're worthy enough and valuable enough to go do something and to create something different in the world. And this is why I'm here. So like I said, I've got so much that I need to dive into. I'm trying to remember. We can take all of this one bite at a time, one step at a time. And I know that there will be so much more revealed. Always more revealed. But before I go, why the bee space? Why this name? When I was 16, and I was pretty far from God, like I had a hunger for something else. Was I 16? Maybe I was 15. I don't know, I was pretty lost. Some things had happened. I definitely wasn't quite in the thick of it yet, but I sat at a Women of Faith conference in Denver, Colorado, and I watched this really hilarious lady named Nicole act out a skit on stage, and she was just wearing all of these different hats and acting out all these different roles, and she was talking about how we as women of faith conference, tend to wear all these hats. We tend to feel like we have to be all the things all the time. And at the heart of the message was, look, we can be all those things, but who we really are is we're actually meant to be a daughter of the King Most High, and we're meant to realize that we're the bride of Christ. And both of those things are an honor and a privilege. And that is that being, knowing who you are, who you be at the core of yourself. It's like God struck me with just this thing. And I sat there while she was acting all this out, and I was just like doodling. And when I got done doodling, what I saw was this giant, like took up the whole notebook paper, B-E, and they were all blooming. There were blooms all over it. And God told me this, Brooke, this is part of your purpose. This is part of what you're here to do. And I had no idea what it meant. But the next part of the vision was I'm sitting there in the chair. I think it's called like Ballerina now. But it was Pepsi Center at the time. And I was sitting there in this chair, and I had this vision, and I'd drawn this thing, and suddenly God showed me on stage in a space like that, and speaking and sharing. Like, whoa. Okay, God. We'll see if that happens. We'll see if that gets revealed. That'd be pretty cool. But he began to show me glimpses. He began to show me glimpses of this reality that was going to be created. And it's come through in bits and pieces through my whole life. And maybe you have something like that. Maybe you have a vision or you have a dream that's been kind of percolating, and you've been kind of thinking about it, but it hasn't really come through. It hasn't landed. I got to tell you, I'm just going to prophecy this. It's landing. This is the year that the pieces come together. This is the time that you step into your power. The time is now to actually fulfill that vision. I know the totality of it will not happen all at once. God has his perfect timing, and the pieces will fall in place, but this is the year. This is the time when things come to fruition. So why the B space? After I left Denver in 2019, we went on a hot spring tour. I gave up my bathtub in Denver, and I wanted to go find as many of nature's bathtubs as I possibly could. Can you blame me? So we were on this grand hot spring tour. We were actually in Colorado, up in Buena Vista, Mount Princeton Hot Springs. If you ever have a chance to go there, it's magnificent. It's really wonderful. And I'm sitting there in the hot tub, and I'm talking to this older gentleman, and we just strike up this really cool and interesting conversation. And he says, Brooke, have you heard about the bees? Have you been seeing what's going on with the bees? I'm like, yeah. I've heard all kinds of stories about the bees. People say that they're dying everywhere. The bees are dying. He said, yeah. I said, I've heard of diseases, and I've heard that, if the bees die off, we're all going to die, because how do you have crops if you don't have bees to pollinate the crops? And yeah. And he said, Brooke, have you ever wondered how bees fly? And I said, yeah, actually I have. Like, they got got a big old body. They got these little wings. It's not aerodynamic. How does that work?" And he said, I'll get to that. Brooke, what's your experience of bees and your reality?" And I said, "Well, I don't really understand what the news is talking about because everywhere that I go, there are tons of bees. The bees are everywhere. In fact, they're happy. Like I can feel them. Look at them flitting around and floating around all these different flowers. They're everywhere." And he said, "Brooke, you're right. Bees are not, they're not aerodynamic. They shouldn't fly. They should not be able to fly. It doesn't make sense." He said, "That's because they're not using their wings to fly. See, in their thoracic cavity, they actually produce a vibration, and that vibration hums at the same frequency as the earth, and it creates a bubble of protection around them. So they literally they bubble up and then they're protected and they're actually levitating. It's energetic. They're levitating in a bubble of energy. And that's how a bee flies. They bubble up to fly. And they can take a 35-mile-an-hour crosswind gust and it will not blow them off track because they're bubbled up." And then he said, "Brooke, the keys to the universe are all in vibration and energy and frequency." He said, "Brooke, the bees aren't dying. The bees are vibrating somewhere else, meaning they're traveling dimensionally is how they would describe it." Now, I was talking to a friend about this the other night, and it struck me with such profoundness. Is that even the right word? I don't know. It struck me. See, since I left Denver in 2019 and I took a wild leap into the unknown and I let God walk me through the wilderness and let Him take me on a journey wherever the heck I needed to go. And I let Him prune me and weed me and nourish me and water me. And I let God bring storms upon my life and freezes to get the bugs out and all sorts of stuff. Like since I came back to the garden and I let God start gardening me, I have been provided for. I have been protected. I have been put along the path. I am in the right place at the right time, and miracle after miracle after miracle follows me. And I know that. I don't believe in God. I know God. I have an intimate relationship with God. I don't believe in my provision. I know that it's there because time and time again it has shown up. And it comes through people and it comes through situations and it comes from God, though. Always through them. And I had such a profound moment because there's so much happening in the world. There's so much happening in Oz. And the antidote to Oz is to come back to the garden. The antidote of Oz is to change the state in which you be. Are you willing to seek the kingdom within so that within your own being, you create a bubble of protection around you? See, if you have the God and the Christ living and dwelling within you, and you're coming from that state of being, from that state of knowing who you are and your identity, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when the crosswind strikes you because you have so cultivated, nourished this state of being, this state of knowing within yourself, this gnosis. Gnosis is when you know with your whole being. if you are being in the energy of that, totally connected to source, fully knowing who you are as yourself, you are bubbled up. So I'm on a mission right now. Y'all, we've got to get as many people bubbled up and back in the garden as possible, as fast as possible. And, a lot of people think that they are well on their way, but they're still missing the mark. And it's not their fault. It's just that this Oz production studio has its claws and its hooks in every single facet of every part of the world around us. Okay? It is a long-standing evil institution that has taken thousands of years to create, and they have their talons and their venom in every facet of everything. And so it is just a journey, and I so thank you for having the courage to be here. And I so thank you for having the willingness to even try on something like this, because it causes a lot of cognitive dissonance in a lot of people. Cognitive dissonance is when your belief system is being butted up against. Okay, but I found that the mind and your heart work best as a parachute. They work best when they're open. And when they're open and you're willing to just try on something different, just see how it feels for you. Just get curious, ask some questions, do an experiment, go do some research, dive in, ask, journal. Plug into the experience of your life and then just see what happens to exist there. And look, what I have found is just that we have been hijacked and lied to at every single turn, and all of it has been to control us, to take away our power, to manipulate us, and to make us standardized sheep, okay? So we have to come and we have to begin to uproot from all of that, and we have to untangle all of that. We have to uproot from the lies and discover the truth so that we can know who we truly are. If they've been messing with our foundation, and they've been messing with the foundation. And so everything that we have built on top of the faulty foundation is bound to crumble. It's bound to cave. And thank goodness that it does. Because we're not meant to live there. We're not meant to live in this space. It was never intended that, no. God says that He has a plan and a hope for your future. God says that He has known you from the beginning. God says that you were created for a moment such as this. Jesus said that greater works than these will be done amongst you. He called His disciples brother. He said, we are brothers. We are brothers with the Christ. The Christ comes and lives and dwells within you. You have that power available within you. Greater works than these will be done. This is the period of miracles. The miracles are going to come through you. They're going to come through me. They're going to happen through our hands. They're going to happen with our boots on the ground. They're going to happen with us speaking our truth and sharing our testimony. They're going to happen as we choose to step out of Oz and we choose to untangle all these things that have kept us stuck. And I got to tell you, this is the biggest, most important, most profound work that you will ever do. This willingness to go in and to untangle all of that, because when we do, we untangle generations of lies, generations of trauma. We go back and we are literally rewriting history, His story. We're rewiring it to the truth. And what happens when you do that? What happens when you're willing to do that? The physical shift that I have found that ripples out from the willingness to do that inner work is so profound. I have seen lives saved. I've seen relationships brought back from the brink. I've seen people come to life. I've watched dreams come true. I've watched miraculous healing. I've experienced miraculous healing in my own body. I'm living out my dreams. It truly, when we decide to leave Oz and we come back to the garden, we have a good God gardener. And when I see this in my head, I see like a gardener, like someone that gardens, but I also see a guard, like an armed guard inner, a gardener, standing guard, someone that is there to protect you. Okay, so I'm on a mission. I want to get as many people into the garden as possible because in the garden there is peace everlasting. In the garden there is patience, love, kindness, joy, gratitude, connection, intimacy, ease, well-being, thriving. And in the garden there is sweet fruit that nourishes you, mind, body, and soul. And it is not found in Oz. Oz will give you Mickey D's and chemicals and Monsanto crap. Okay? God wants to give you the best and the sweetest fruit that you have ever tasted. The Oz will give you porn and synthetic connection. The garden of God will give you the kingdom partnership and the kingdom marriage that you've been seeking. Oz will give you a gym so you can come move your body so you hopefully feel less secure. God will give you an adventure where your body gets to play and your body will come to life and you won't have to work at it, but you'll love living in it and you'll be comfortable in your skin. Oz wants to tell you to go chase the millions of dollars. God says, yeah, I could give it to you that way if I wanted to, but have you thought about it showing up this way? This way gives you that and connection and joy and fun. See, it took me a long time to realize that the visions that I was having, the dreams that I've had since I was little, like when I get the ego and I get the immediate gratification and what will other people think of me, when I get that crap out of the way, when I lean into the truth of what I really wanted, my will and God's will are the same. God actually wanted for me all of these things, and God knew the fastest path to set me up to come get them, but I had to get out of the way. I had to stop living by Oz's rules in order to come home to the garden where God could give me all the goodness. You got to stop living by Oz's rules. You've got to come back to the fact that you have a kingdom within you, that you are a child of God, you are a son or you are a daughter of God, of the Almighty, Most High, living God, source of all things, creator of all things. Not any of the stuff that this world worships, the above all that, the king above all kings. You are of that lineage. When you remember that you are of that lineage, anything that exists down here in this world that is trying to pull power over you no longer has any power. You have pulled out the plug. You have shut off the breakers. There is no more supply there. You're not siphoning off of me. So to help people get into this place of power is the thing to do. It's the thing to do right now. This is how we actually shift all this stuff that's been going on in the world. We do it internally. Okay, so along those lines, I'm so excited. I'm like so excited. And I'm also really petrified and I'm really excited, but mostly I'm excited. Back in 2019, right before we hit the road, right before my life changed so much that it necessitated needing to hit the road, I led a course in my coaching business that was phenomenal. And it was called Uproot and Flourish. And oh boy, did it ever uproot me and help me to flourish. And I have been feeling this pull on my heart that God said, Brooke, I've taken the last 4 years to really walk you through this program. Before I had given you the vision and the idea of it, and I had unlocked you, Brooke, in many different ways, but you hadn't yet taken the leap to fully uproot yourself. And so you Didn't know what you were talking about, is what he's saying. You're right, God, I didn't. I hadn't yet embodied it. I've embodied it. And I'm really excited because I'm relaunching it in a whole new way. So, starting March 20th, my birthday, first day of spring, woohoo, we are beginning a 12-week deep dive. It is not for the faint of heart, y'all. Okay, I'm just going to put out this disclaimer. This program is for the people that like to go big or go home. This is not for people that are lukewarm. This is not for people that are like, yeah, I want to shift, but this is not for people that are going to get all afraid and shaking their space booties and stop. Because look, half measures avail us nothing. Anything that you do half-assed, you will get nothing at all. Okay? Did you hear that? Perhaps I'll say it this way. The reason why you haven't gotten what you've been seeking and you haven't reached the outcome that you're searching for is because you've gone tiptoeing. You've stuck a toe in and expected to get the whole experience. You do not get paid whole time, whole paycheck for half effort. Right? Like your job wouldn't do that. They wouldn't be like, so I know you were only here half time and you did half the amount of effort, but here's your whole paycheck. No, they wouldn't do that. So why, when you go seek God or you go to chase your dreams, have you been tolerating that kind of half-assed effort? Okay, so if you're going to do this, you're going to make a decision. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to go whole self into it. I'm going to dive into the deep end. I'm going to do it no matter what. No matter what, I'm committed to the shift. No matter what, I'm leaving Oz. No matter what, I'm not living in that space anymore. I'm not going to be stuck. I'm not going to be small. And I'm not going to be sick anymore. I'm done. I'm leaving. Okay? You got to be willing to get there. You got to be willing to pack lightly for the journey. That means, homie, we are not dragging all your stuff around. You do not need 17 pieces of luggage. We're not bringing 14 camels and 3 semi-trucks to haul all your past around. If you're going to come do this thing, it's because you're willing to put that past behind you. You're willing to set it down. You don't have to know how to do that right away. That's the work that we're going to be doing together. It's just the willingness. The willingness. Because what we're going to do is we're going to come through, and over the course of 12 weeks as a group, we're going to dive in and we are going to uproot you from the lies. We're going to uproot you from the error, the places where you have been believing things that are not true. We're going to pluck up the weeds and the seeds that were planted by evil. We're going to pluck up the things that were not planted by God, that are choking out the things that are meant to come to life. We're going to come through and we're going to uproot all of the spiny vinies that are filled with poison, that are choking out your life force. We are going to uproot your past traumas. We're going to resolve past lifetime stuff. We're going to get into that more. That's part of the slave trauma matrix. You don't need to live there. We're going to release that. We're going to let go of resentment and fear and doubt. And we're going to leave that behind. We're going to take your sweet root-bound self, your you, that's become way too big for where you're trying to grow. Like some of you guys watching this, you are like an oak tree that's been trying to grow in the crack of a sidewalk. It ain't going to work there, sugar. You need way more space. You need way more space to stretch out. So we're going to pluck you up out of there. We're going to give you some room to breathe. And then we're going to put you in new fertile soil. Say that 10 times fast. We're going to bring you back to the garden of God. We're going to plant you in truth. We're going to recreate a new strong connection with yourself, with the truth of who you are. We're going to have you nourished by the Holy Spirit? This isn't coming from me. It comes through me. I'm just an open conduit. The healer exists within you, and sometimes we need a Sherpa along our journey that's been there, that can see the stuff that we haven't been able to see, so we can set it down. Okay? I'm just that Sherpa. So we're going to replant you. We're going to replant you with good, loving, positive people. We are building a growth group. It's a community of people that are like you, that are committed to moving forward. They're committed to having the most out of life. They're committed to something great. We're going to replant you. We're going to replant you with a new identity. We're going to plant new seeds around you. In gardening, it's called companion planting. So sometimes you plant this plant next to this plant because then they both grow better. So sometimes the reason why your dreams haven't sprouted, why they haven't taken root, is because you've been trying to grow them in an inhospitable environment and around the wrong companion plants. Maybe you've been hanging out with the wrong people or in the wrong places. So if you're going to dive into this work is actually, it very well might ask you to say goodbye to those things. It did for me. Look, I had built a whole life that was not true for who I was, that is not true for me, it's not true for what God wanted for me. And so when I decided to uproot from it, it cost me everything that I had built. Pardon me. That obviously didn't want to be talked about because it's trying to make me cough, but I'm going to talk about it. If you have built an entire reality that's not true, if you decide to do this work, there's going to be big upheaval in your life. And it's going to be a lot to move through. And that's why you need a Sherpa. That's why you need someone that's been through that. You need to have someone that you can share that moment with, that you can share that experience with. You need to have a group of people that you can do life with. Look, we're learning new ways of operating and new ways of being in the world, and most of us, that was not modeled to us, so we're reparenting ourselves. That's what replanting is. So you actually have to have people in your life and in your environment around you that are going to help lift you up and make sure that you keep moving in the direction that you've decided. We need help with that. We are not meant to exist in a vacuum. So we're going to replant you, and then once you're replanted in the space of the truth, we're going to nourish you. We're going to nourish the new seeds that you have planted. You will feel yourself coming back to life. You'll feel yourself coming back to your body. You'll notice that your relationships begin to shift. You'll notice that your life becomes more fun. And then we're going to flourish. And I found that, this isn't some one and done process. It happens cyclically. We are always coming back around to things to see them at a deeper level. But I have found that once you know how to do this, once you know how to discern what's true, and you know how to uproot it, and you know how to replant yourself somewhere wonderful, and you know how to nourish yourself, and you know how to allow yourself to flourish in God's garden in His grace, then you're good to go. You're good for your journey. So we kickstart March 20th. I've got many different ways that you can work with me. I've been at many different places in my life, and I wanted to make sure that I have something that's accessible for wherever you might be on your path. Okay. If you just want to read and follow along or watch videos, I'm going to be here once or twice a week on YouTube. I've got a Substack. It is TheBEspace on Substack. That's where I'm doing the bulk of my longer writing now. You can also find me on Facebook, but they shadow ban me a lot. Lame. Hang on. And then additionally, you can come do this Uproot and Flourish program with us. I've got it deeply discounted until March 1st because I want to get butts and seats. I want to pack the garden. Let's bring the people home to the garden. So if this has touched you, please and thank you, share this video, share my website, invite a friend. 12-week group program. Y'all, it's only $333 for 3 months right now. That's $111 a month. That's less than what you would pay for one therapy session. And if you've been going to therapy and getting no progress, y'all come spend a tiny portion of that money. Come work with us and see what God can do in the garden. Okay. Try something else. You deserve to see the shift. You deserve to see the magic and the miracle in your own life. Now, that's a group program. Every week, we're going to have group teachings. We will have a group coaching, group hot seat coaching. That means that if you have a question, you need a breakthrough, you need an aha, you need some support, you can bring your situation and we will work through it live on the call. And what I really love about that is that more often than not, we're often, if we're attracted to one another, if we end up in each other's worlds, we're often living on the same web of energy. We're often going through similar things. And I found that when you watch someone else break through, that breakthrough then also happens for you. Okay, so you can learn so much by watching somebody else. You can come and get hot seat coaching yourself. That's totally available. And then I also have a number of ways to work with me one-on-one if you're seeking something more intimate, more personal, perfectly curated to you. And I've got several different packages there. So my website is www.TheBEspace.com. That will go directly to the page to work with me, and you can see all of those options. Now, this is the one I'm really excited about. I have something so cool. That's part of this. And should you choose, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you. Wow, you get to come be in person. So I've got a package that you can add, and it's called Be You to Full, like beautiful, beautiful you. Be You to Full. This one is the coolest. It includes Uproot and Flourish, which is the course that we're going to do now that will get you out of Oz and into the garden. It also includes the next course that I'll be rolling out later in the year that is called Beloved. And that one is about creating and finding your kingdom partnership. So I don't care if you're single and you're searching, or you're taken and you're tired and you're looking for something different. That program is the one that is going to cultivate deep self-love within you, so that you are so deeply rooted that the love of your dreams, the relationship of your dreams, grows from the inside out. Okay. Anyway, if you do Be Beautiful, you get Uproot and Flourished, and that, and deep dive calls, and one-on-one check-in sessions, and access to me in Messenger. So as you're going through life and stuff hits the fan, life stuff comes up, you can buzz me. I'll be right in your back pocket. I can help you walk through the thing in the moment. And then the most exciting part of all is it includes a VIP weekend. I don't care if we book it in the middle of the week. Weekend is relaxed. But 2 days, 2 nights of luxury accommodations, one-on-one time to break you through whatever you might be going through. And finally, a 4-day, 3-night retreat experience called Nourish here in the Ozark Mountains in Northwest Arkansas. Y'all, you gotta come. You really I'm probably going to open up VIP days and retreat to anybody else who's in the course. So that's also going to be an option. I'm still kind of playing it out. We're going to have to see how it all goes. But if you can find a way to come here, and you can find a way to come be here, the experience of this place will bring you back to life. I had no idea how much I needed this. I had no idea how much I needed the green and the lush and the clear, clean water and the beauty. Y'all, it's February. We've got daffodils popping up. Like, the wildflowers are starting in February. It's amazing. You need to come. You need to come experience this place, and you need to come feel the energy of these other people. And I promise you, at the end of this 6 months of working together, You do this whole package. Like Uproot and Flourish, you're going to have a totally different life, okay? You do the whole shebang with me, the old you would not recognize you. You are going to be so different. You are going to be so happy. You are going to be so plugged into your purpose. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to watch that happen. Anyway, choose what works for you. Okay? What shift are you wanting to create? You know, what are you wanting to change? If you could have anything, if you could have it your way, if you could have your reality in your life, your relationships, your work in the world, your experience of your body, what would that be like? What do you want? And, you know, sometimes it helps maybe if you're really in the dumps, make a list of everything you don't want. Okay, get it out of you. But then come back and make a list of everything that you do want, the things that you're wanting to claim for you. What is your new reality? Get real clear on that. And then I want you to ask yourself, what have I already done to try to create this shift? And I want you to get good and honest. What have you done? What things have you tried? How did it work? And then I want you to get honest with yourself. How much did you show up for it? How much did you show up for yourself? How much were you involved in it? Okay, because some things don't work because we didn't work them. And then other things just legit didn't work, and that's fine. But I think that's a big thing to look at. Because this thing, you come do this thing requires that you're all in. All right, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire because you deserve to actually get the shift that you came for. You deserve to actually have the new life that you're desiring. You shouldn't go another decade. You shouldn't go another day without being closer to what you want. You certainly should not let another decade go by without creating it. Your life is short. Your time here is short. We don't know how long we have. Now's the time to live your life. All right? What shift are you making? What support do you need? So whatever didn't work before, look at that. Why didn't it work? What did you actually need instead? My background is in teaching, so I understand everybody has a different way that they require for them to get the thing. What is it that you need? Be honest with yourself. See, I've had different points in my life. I've had some points in my life where it's like, gosh, I need a group and I need some people and I need some guidance and I don't have a lot of cash flow, but I'm willing to show up whole ass. I'm going to go all in. Cool. Sign up for Uproot and Flourish group. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you. At other points in my life, it's like, oh, I need to put my money where my mouth is. Hi, dog. I need to put my money where my mouth is. I need to intentionally put my focus. I need to be so invested in myself that I know I'm going to suit up. I know I'm going to show up to this because I put so much energy there already. Okay, I don't know what that level is for you. I don't know what that looks like. But I have put together a number of different packages so that we can get you where you need to be. You can go take a look. All right, the last thing is stretch. It's kind of what we were just talking about. Stretch. What is a stretch for you? Look, people tend to make the most change when they are appropriately stretched. In teaching, we call it the zone of proximal development. It's the sweet spot. It's a sweet spot of transformation where you're growing, where you're learning, where you're developing. You're outside your comfort zone. You're outside what you can do on your own. But you are not so far stretched, you're not so far challenged that you're totally stressed out and your nervous system's a wreck. Because if you are totally stressed, and maybe this is you, maybe you've gone and you invested really heavily into a coaching program and they told you, well, you've got to or it'll never work. It's nonsense, by the way. She's even crying about it. She thinks it's nonsense. Come here. Come here. So maybe you've fallen into that and you've way overextended yourself. Y'all, that's not the answer either. I'm not that kind of coach. I'm not going to tell you that kind of nonsense. It's nonsense. Okay? It's nonsense. There is an appropriate level of stretch for you. And that's the one that matters. This isn't cookie cutter. Nothing's supposed to be cookie cutter. It's supposed to be a relationship. It's supposed to be something that's unique for you, and that's what's going to have it work. Okay? You need unique support. Your relationship that you're creating with God in the garden is unique to you. Your life is unique. Your dreams are unique. So, of course, your coaching program should also be unique. Yes, it should. I don't know why you're crying. Your heater's on. You have a blanket. You're really cute, but that voice is not. Okay, well, obviously my dog needs me. This has been lovely. I'm really excited. I'm going to be back here definitely once a week, twice a week if I have a lot to teach. This is going to be, a lot of teaching is going to happen here. But I'm super excited to see you. Come find me on Substack, find my website, check me out here, and we'll be in contact soon. Really good to see y'all. I hope you have a beautiful day.